Ruslan.
Kevin Samuels, and people think that it's better to get married when you're in your 30s and that men should be developing themselves and working on themselves until they get in their 30s because then they're more established and they know who they are. Okay. How many men do you think actually spend their 20s working on themselves? How many men do you think actually spend their 20s working on themselves and don't trick off their 20s? Do you think that's normative? You think that's what men do? You think so if the standard is, men need to build their life in their until they're 30 and then get married. Here's the thing with that. If that is the case, my opinion, who you are in your 20s and not being married could potentially open you up to just as much risk of getting married young. And this is what I mean. If a man is like, fam, I'm going to be celibate, I am going to work on myself, I'm going to get my income up, I'm going to press into my relationship with Jesus, that is amazing, praise God. And that man is gonna say, I'm gonna wait till I'm 28, 29, 30 to get married. He's a fine specimen of a human, and all kudos to him. The vast majority of men I know, even Christian men I know, don't have that degree of self-control, that focus, and that consistency. So what's gonna happen is they are going to go and dabble and date girls, probably some non-Christian girls, probably cross some boundaries, probably have some sex, probably do some things they have no business doing. And because they are not really out there living that life where they're using protection and you're not really out there, but you're kind of out there, in my opinion, they may open themselves up to more, if not the same liability as getting married at 23 the way I did. I'm not prescribing you all go get married at 23. Vast majority of you guys are older than 23 that watch this channel. I'm telling you that you could get married at 23, you can get married at 33, you can get married at 43. Alan Parr was 40 when he got married. There is no specific date or year someone should get married. The Brookings Institute did a study and they said 97% of people who do these three things end up breaking out of poverty. So if you're coming from poverty, you do these three things, you will break out of poverty. The three things are graduate high school, wait until you're at least 21 to get married, and then have kids only after you will get married. Okay? So in that order, graduate high school, get married, have kids after you get married. If you do those three things, you come from poverty the way I did, you will, 97% of people who do that are likely to break out of the cycle of poverty and move up the socioeconomic ladder. The issue is that if we're talking about men getting married later, are they actually gonna spend their 20s not tricking off and following their urges and doing what they want? That would be my question. And some folks can, and some folks can't, right? If you can, then yes. My advice for men in general, my advice would be, hey, how about the earlier you start working on your life, the earlier you start working on things like financial literacy, useful, scarce skills, self-control, devotion to God, fitness, the earlier you start working on those things, the better you will be when you enter your 20s. And then you can build a life with someone. The issue is that most people don't do that either. They're not 18, 19, 20, right? Now, in my situation, the vast majority of people around me are crushing by the time they're 21, 22 years old. But maybe we're outliers. Vast majority of people I know, this is my and again, my man Hafiz checked me on this and he said, yo, you have selection bias. You're surrounded with people that are highly talented, crazy work ethic, they grind their face off. But the vast majority of people I know who they're under 21, they don't have college degrees and they're doing, 70, 80, 90,000 a year. They're working, they have solid character. Their yes is their yes, their no is their no. They're in local churches. Those people at 20, 21, 22, 23, by all means, man, if you've been with someone, you're willing to invest in premarital counseling, into therapy, and you have the character and you know yourself and you're solid in your faith, you're solid in your finances, I think you're safer, my opinion, it's my opinion, you're safer in building a life with someone than trying to skate through your 20s alone, figuring it out, and then all of a sudden you're struggling with your sexuality. And then what? Then you're listening to Kevin Samuels, and then you're like, he's like, yo, sex work is cool. Escorts, they just come around and they you, and sometimes they don't even get paid to do anything sexual. You could just talk to them. Like, is that where that's going? So now you're a guy in your 30s making $200,000 a year. You don't have the desire to build a relationship. You're like, you know what I mean? Like, how does that work, right? So how many men are actually working on developing themselves in their 20s? How many of them are instead playing video games, tricking off at the club, using Tinder? I think in a perfect world, we equip men at 15, 16, 17 to say, get your life in order. What scarce skills do you have? What are you doing? Can you develop some skills so you don't have to work at Chick-fil-A and go to college? Can you do something where maybe they're combined? Can you do something and get around some other people that could give you some better work? Can you do these things? If we could equip men earlier, I think potentially we can create some parameters of them knowing themselves, them knowing their God, them knowing who they want to marry, the character traits, the values, them knowing what they're going to do with their lives. And then by the time they're in their 30s and 40s, they're positioned to make a strong income and have a healthy family and avoid the mistakes of their parents, maybe if they come from a crazy family like I did. I think that's productive. And so what I'm saying with the guys I'm mentoring and discipling, that's the pathway we're seeing. Right? And I need to bring some of them on, because I think you guys think I'm like making this stuff up. I'm not making this stuff up. Somebody at my church just got engaged today, 21 years old. Same day their sister is about to have a baby any day. 22 years old, 21 years old, engaged. Sister's about to have a baby, been together a couple years, awesome family, love Jesus, make good money. Maybe there's selection biased. Maybe there's some selection bias. I'll own that. Don't we want to be outliers? If we're speaking generally, don't we want to be outliers? Don't you want to tip the scales in your favor? Now, if you're one of those men and you're like, yo, I'm locked in, I'm building a business in my 20s, hey, respect to you, brother. I would burn with lust. And if I didn't get married at 23, I probably would have been in a really dark place by the time I was 26, 27. Open yourself up to potentially more liability. Is there some liability at me getting married at 23, my wife being 21? We've been married, it'll be 14 years in July, together 18 years. Is there some liability? Sure, there's some liability. My wife can wake up tomorrow and be another person and leave me. Possible. It's possible. But is it likely? Not likely. And so the flip side is there would have been more liability had I stayed single in my 20s. I could have gotten somebody pregnant. I could have got the wrong person pregnant. So that's how I would look at it, man. It's all a cost analysis reward, in my opinion. Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan. Yo, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Be sure to check out the links in the description for a free How to Study the Bible course, free Master My Habits course I put together with my therapist, and a free Find Your Niche training if you're looking to get into the Christian space. Also, check out some of these other videos from me and YouTube recommended to you. All right, peace. Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.